Sometimes the people who shape the community most aren't the loudest voices. They're the steady hands, the listening ears, the ones who show up again and again because they care. In Montego Bay, one of those people is Mrs. Claudette Bryan. She's worn many hats: entrepreneur, justice of the peace, school board chair, hospital oversight leader. But more than any title, she's built a life rooted in purpose and service. Today on Talk to Miguel, we're sitting down with a woman whose journey reflects the best of what leadership can be: quiet strength, unwavering integrity, and a deep commitment to lifting others up. This is a story about community, legacy, and living with intention. So let's start at the beginning. Mrs. P, Miss P,
Yes, they call me Miss P,
Miss P.
Claudette, Auntie Claudette. There's so many different names.
Where were you born and what was life like growing up?
Okay, so I was born in Jamaica. We say we're born in the country. So I was born in Westmoreland, in
Oh, I didn't know
a
that.
district called Petersfield.
I know
And
Petersfield.
I, yes, Petersfield. And I grew up with my mom and my dad. And I'm twin. I'm one of twin.
I
But
didn't know that.
a lot of people don't know, especially in Montego Bay. The people who would remember are those whom we went to school with. And unfortunately, my brother died
Sorry.
at 23 years old. So there's always a missing link in my life as I think about my journey with my brother up to that age.
At what age did he?
At
Uh,
23.
at 23.
So that's quite a long while.
Yeah. So, so is it true what they say about twins? That there is that sort of connection?
Yes, we were so connected, yet we were male and female. But there was such a link to the both of us that he knew when anything would happen to me. In fact, the night of the incident, he was in the States. I felt it. I felt that something was wrong. And unfortunately, he never survived.
Hmm.
So,
It's unfortunate.
yes.
Is there a memory from the past that still brings joy or a smile to your face?
Yes, the memories, the fun we had as brother and sister, going to school together, coming home together. Um, there's so much memory. Growing up as a child in the country, the innocence, the role of just having mommy around, and daddy would work out. Daddy used to work with the Kaiser Bauxite, so he would go on a Monday morning, come back on a Friday evening, and then he migrated before we graduated from high school. So I've had some fun times and great memories, most of all with my twin brother.
So was there ever any chance that you would migrate as well? Or
I was supposed to, but God would have it. And that's a different story all by itself. But God would have it that I stayed. And then I stayed and I met Junior Bryan. And then there was no urge to go anymore.
so it's been from then.
It's been from then.
Okay.
It's been from then.
All right. So were you always expected to become? What were your expectations? Um,
In fact, I really wanted to be a nurse. I really
nurse.
had nursing on my heart. And with my mother leaving, my father came back, took my mother, my twin brother, my smaller brother, my younger brother. And there were some challenges, and I opted to stay. And so this is why I ended up being here. And I met Junior. And so we continued our life. And I just got into business. I did my tertiary education right here in Montego Bay. And so there was just no reason to leave again.
What tertiary education?
I did business. I did have my diploma in business. And then when I gave my life to the Lord, this is when the drastic change came. I did my first degree in Christian counseling.
Okay.
Because by that time now, my mind was made up now for the
Where in
ministry.
Montego Bay?
No, but this was Central Christian University.
Where is this?
And the late Dr. McGann would have
Okay.
classes, and he would come every 6 weeks to Jamaica, and he would see his students, and we were tutored and mentored that way. And then he finally went back and had all the final exams and paperwork, and graduation was in Kingston.
Okay.
And so Christian counseling has been my thing
Yeah, it's
for
been,
many, many years.
so you because you did business, you always thought of after not doing nursing, you always thought you were going to go into business
Yes.
or
I thought I loved leather, and I
mm,
still do. And then I began to research on leather, and I had thought of opening a leather store, which I did
mm,
in the early 1990s. So I opened a genuine leather store, all leather, came out of Colombia and Mexico. And that was a small business, all genuine leather handbags and shoes only. And then June and I decided to collaborate,
mm.
and we came together
Yeah, the
and
good collaboration.
yes, put both stores together, and this is where we ended up with Bryan's Jewellery and Leather Affair.
So you want to go back a little bit and to Junior, because it gets mentioned a couple of times.
Yes.
How did that love story start?
You know what? I went to the store with my watch to be fixed, and that's how it
Him
started.
talk you up, him chat you
He
up.
just chat me out. And every time I think about it, I laugh. I said, "Did this really happen?" But God would have it that way.
Were there any surprising lessons you've learned over the years doing business?
Yes. There are times when you feel like you have people in your corner, especially those you think that are close to you and will support you. They don't. The ones who support you are the ones you didn't expect. The people you expect to support you, you don't get
They
that.
fall by the wayside.
Yes, and that's the reality for me.
I suppose when you're in trouble is when you find out who you're real.
Who your friends are,
Yeah.
and who are really, really your friends, and
Mm.
those who will support you. But over the years, I've built my clientele, and I've made a name in terms of quality and service. And with the combination of the jewelry store and Juna being a strong businessman in terms of his skill and his craft,
Mm.
there was no stopping, because
How do you think the business community in Montego Bay has changed over the years?
there's have been so many changes. I've realized that a lot of our local people have a lot of the businesses nowadays are people who come into the country, the Chinese and the Indians. Well, the Indians have been here for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah,
but
yeah.
and their market is the inbound store. So, but as it regards to local businesses, you have had to be strong to stand. You have had to be strong. You have had to have some good business principles to remain after 30 years, 35 years, because you'd have seen that a lot of the local businesses, um, it's now being run by Chinese.
Yeah, they take over
Isn't that the
everything.
truth in
That, yep,
Montego Bay?
yep,
Mhm.
everything.
Everything.
So did you have any role models or mentors?
Yes. When
And
I
who were
bec
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
when I became a justice of the peace, my there were I cannot say that I had any business person to say was a role model for me. Um, but I knew what I wanted, and I knew I had to work for what I wanted, and to implement measures and principles to cause me to survive. But as it relates to volunteerism and the role models I had in my life, I did have role models. Um, and that inspired me to volunteer even more than I thought I would. But as it relates to business, it was that strong business principles between June and I that has caused us to survive to this point.
So what about the community side of things? Because you do have a strong presence in, is that through the church or
Um,
is that a personal
it
thing?
comes through business, it comes through the church. The church has been the strongest link for me,
Mm.
because we tend to forget that the church is one of the most vital institutions anywhere. And when you are linked and tied to a local ministry, that you give your time, you end up with strong values that you can live by
Mhm.
through God and His Word. And so the church has been a strong uh, force for me, as I see those we see for the last 35 years. Some come and some go, and you have new people. But to remain committed to the church and to Jesus Christ is what has really kept me over the years.
So is there ever a specific moment or turning point um, that altered your life course or any specific moment or any?
Yes, There was a moment when my son was 4 years old and we were building this house. He went on the patio and fell off.
Ooh. You mean,
Yes, on the outside. He went on the patio and he fell off. And Cornwall Regional, Fairfield Hospital, running from Fairfield to Cornwall, and helicopter coming for him, taking to the University Hospital with a broken skull.
oh,
But God healed him miraculously. By the time I called my pastor, and the team, the prayer team, went on alert and the church began to pray, God moved miraculously because by the time he got into Kingston and to do that brain scan, the doctors could not find the broken skull. That was found.
taken care of.
It was taken care of. And so that has been a turning point in my life to see my commitment to God, that I could never ever turn my back on Him and His principles and the power of the Holy Spirit. So, God, through all of this, showed His magnificence and His miraculous power and authority to heal, even when men do not believe. But there are always people who believe and who will pray.
That's strong testimony. So
No, it's awesome. So that turned my life around drastically.
Right. Out of all of the projects that because you have the band thing,
Yes.
the marching band, you've been
Lay
lay
Magistrates
magistrate.
Association, and I've served on various boards. But within me, from a small child, I had that heart to serve and to serve with no reward. So within me, it's always beating heavily in my breast.
Is that something from your parents you think came from your
No,
parents?
my mother was a dressmaker. My mother was a community person. I never got that from my parents at all. Um, I just believe that this is what God was doing in my life and what He wants to continue to do in my life. Because my work as a volunteer, as an advocate for the people, for the vulnerable and the voiceless, is for nothing in return, but to see the lives of the people being blessed and being given directions and openings so that they can survive.
What you say is your favorite project?
My favorite project, I have so many favorite projects. So many projects. The marching band project was birthed at a time when it needed to be birthed. It was birthed at a time when marching bands were looking for a place.
But what was the motivation? How did that come to? Because you weren't in a marching band.
No.
But you are musically inclined. So
And I don't even think I'm musically inclined either. I went up to Norwood a few years before to a community project as a justice of the peace. So I was invited because at that time I was the president of the lay magistrates, and I was invited to a community outreach. And on that night there were two marching bands, and as I stood on that field and I heard the sound of the bands and the instruments, and I heard um, everybody cheering, and then I saw the small children playing their instruments and dancing, and it was good. And I said to myself, I need to do something like this. I want to see the marching bands exposed. I want to see our young people getting more involved in something that will make a career for them.
you know, just a slight aside. I brought it up to former mayor, Lyndon, about the whole, it wasn't so much marching bands as the floats and that. Back in the 70s and stuff, we used to have
The floats.
the floats and the
Yes.
festival thing, and I thought it was such a good community thing. So when you started that marching band thing, I thought that is so great.
Yes.
This what happens every year. We happen to be traveling with it.
And I hope you're not traveling this year. It's July 6th. I hope you won't be traveling this year.
Let's see. Is there any of these projects or anything that you've been involved that still brings a smile or a laugh to your face when you think about it?
I have done so much. I have done the band brings a smile to my face. Um, Being chairman of school boards brings a smile to my face.
You care Cornwall Day?
I was chairman for the Cardinal a few years. I am now at the Catherine Hall Primary.
Okay.
Right. So I was vice chair at Montego Bay Infant. I went on to be the chairman for Cardinal Avenue, and now I'm chairman for Catherine Hall Primary. And you feel of worth when you can give back to your community, not looking for anything
In return.
in
Yeah.
return. No rewards.
Yeah. So how do you unwind?
How do I unwind?
Yeah, because you're always busy.
How do I unwind? I unwind when I can relax and pray. And I'm not talking about praying in a prayer meeting. When I'm in a prayer meeting, I'm working.
I've seen, well, it wasn't a prayer meeting, but I've seen you give a talk at a church, and
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
No, that's my passion. That's my
Yeah,
passion. That God would use me, not necessarily on a pulpit, but God would use me in this space on the outside of the church. And so when you go on the outside of the church, you bring the gospel. So despite the fact that you're invited, you invite the gospel into your messages and cause people to understand that there is a God and there's a living God that's in our space. So for me to unwind, if you give me a good game of Scrabble, I'm fine. If you give me a good game of Taboo, I am fine. So if you come to my house for any event, I'm going to introduce Taboo and I'm going to introduce Scrabble. So I
have a couple of games.
You have a couple of. I know you're a game person, you know, and I enjoy my exercise.
Okay.
Yes, so I go to the Harmony at 6 o'clock in the morning, and there's a good team there, and I get that in. So and it doesn't take much for me to relax. It doesn't really take much. But
so you work hard and then.
Yeah, and I'll come home and I'm fine. I'm just fine if I just lie down in my bed and watch TV. I'm just fine. But I'm always on the go. But when I get home, I have a space for relaxation.
What's one thing about the speed that nobody knows?
Ooh, one thing about Miss Speed that nobody knows. What can I don't know. What is it that they don't know about me? Um, hmm, that Miguel, that one is hard. Hmm. Can you flip that one and I'll come back? I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. You know what some people don't understand about me and know about me? I'm a yard person. I clean my yard. I sweep, I clean.
So you're one of those who clean before the helper come?
Yes. I sweep my yard and I'll get in it with the gardener. And I will go down to the road and I sweep that road.
Okay.
I would clean that road all by myself.
You want a few more people like you then?
No, I'm serious. And I believe that if you live in a community, you clean your verge.
Yeah.
And you clean the next door verge too. So I like to see clean spaces. I like to see, you know. So people will see me all dressed up during the days, but before I get there, some serious work is done.
What advice would you give to any young person now trying to find their path, trying to find their way? Because it's a very confusing world now.
It's very confusing. Yeah. Many times young people don't know their path. They don't know what they want to do.
Yeah.
But I believe a lot of us find our way through volunteerism. You may not necessarily know that you want to be a nurse, but the moment you begin to volunteer and to help with the sick, then you find that desire now becomes stronger and God opens the door for you. So there's a saying that says, your calling, your leading may not be your calling. Your calling may not be your leading, but the leading may bring you to your calling. Understand that?
Yeah.
So as you're led, you find out that this is your calling. So you may be asked to do something and you say, but that's not me. And you may just do it and find that this is what God is leading you to do.
So has this been a sort of inspirational motivation over the years then, that sort of thing?
That's what has kept me.
Yeah.
At one point, I had 5 boys living in this house. I only have 1 son. And at one point, I had 5 boys living in this house that attended Cornwall College.
His friends of the family, the people.
And they were not necessarily friends. I had one relative, the others weren't. But there were boys that I decided to mentor. And in mentoring them at school, they ended up living with me. So there were mornings when Mr. Bryan's vehicle was
Packed.
it was packed. And you would see 5 boys jumping out of that bus, and people were saying, "Where are these boys coming from?" They're coming from Bryan's residence. And we would take care of them. I would cook on a particular evening, and I'd have to put 25 dumplings in that pot because they're all boys. And so I mentored those boys, and I still have mentees even now who are adults. So mentorship for me is my life.
Yeah, do you stay in touch with them?
Of course.
Are they here? Are they
Well, one is here, Jermaine is in Kingston, one is in Westmoreland, and the others are away. But separate and apart from those who have migrated, I now mentor young people here. And every time I see young men who need my help, I'm going to help them. And not just young men.
I'm a young man.
No, you pass your age. I don't think I can turn. I don't think I can
You
switch
done broke
that
up already.
one. No, this one don't. This one is grown big. But you want to see your young people doing well. And not just that, but you want them to live lives that are honorable and that they will have a prosperous life. Because prosperity is not just about money.
Yeah.
Prosperity is about having a good life, a mindset that there's decorum and their obedience to laws and rules.
I think a lot of that is missing now because the society, I mean, we saw it in England and we see it with what's happening in the States. It's, everything's about me, me, me. And it's not about community and it's not about.
This is why we're suffering the way we're doing in Jamaica at this time. Because I find that a lot of our young people have no desire to help anybody. It's all about them. There's a self-centeredness that has permeated the society through our young people.
How do you rectify this? How do you get from this? I mean,
I just think that more needs to be done in the schools also. And you see the church, that organization, that church, the church, growing up in the church has taught you how to serve.
you know,
A lot of young people don't want that anymore.
no, it's,
because they believe that.
I sort of feel like because of what's been coming out about like the Roman Catholic Church and the priests and stuff like that, it's sort of and then what happened up Norwood.
Yeah, that's just one or two cases. That's few compared to what's happening.
No, what I'm saying is this sort of permeating in people's thinking why they're sort of turning away from.
No, the world has just overtaken the church in different ways. The world, because the world sets it so inviting, but that's what the enemy does. The enemy is going to invite you with the things that seem so nice, but then in the end, it's really not. It's not lasting at all. There's no eternal value in the world system.
Yeah, I look at it now and I wonder if this generation is gone. We have to work on the next generation.
No, I just believe that you have to start at a young age, from the 3 and the 4-year-old.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That generation, the ones that are in their 20s.
But Miguel, what we're seeing now, if we're gonna say that, we're gonna be in for a rude awakening, a rude awakening, because our young people have lost respect for God most of all. They have lost respect for those around them. They have lost value. And I also believe that the home has a lot to do with what is happening with our young people.
Yeah, well, I agree with you.
The home has got to be built on prayer and godly principles. And our children have got to be taught the values and the principles that will take them through life, that will cause them to live well.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest surprises I had when I came back home and saw, and I heard like some of the women talking. well, you're turn big one now, time you go to go earn no money.
I don't know where that came from.
I heard a lady down by the traffic lights there, down by McDonald's there, so
KFC.
the KFC, and I was shocked. She sent her kids out of the bus stop, out of the lights there, so I'm so, how did this come?
But we should have laws and rules in this country where the authorities would go and put a stop to that. I believe so,
Yeah.
especially if the children are underage. There should be a system where social workers or whoever is responsible should go and begin to make a dent.
I even
into
see
that
during
kind
school
of-
time, I see some of them out there,
But who stops it? Who goes to investigate?
it's not going to be the police.
It's not going to be the police. There are departments in government that they can go and intervene
Mhm.
and find out from this mother or the adult that's with them, why are the children here? Where do you live? And you begin to do your investigation and make a way and put things in place where our children will be off the road and be at home. But there are ways to do this. But when we see this, do we just drive in our cars and close our eyes? When I walk the
Yeah.
city of Montego Bay and I see things that are out of place, I will stop and investigate.
Yeah. I think the driving thing, as you say, is part of the issue because we just wind up the window.
We wind up our windows and we're gone about our business. When someone comes into my business place and I see something that is out of line, I am going to address it because you're in my space.
Mm.
And if you're not able to handle, then I'm so sorry. You can go. But if I see something, especially a minor, I have seen many things happen with my own eyes, and I've had to intervene. Some I can't mention.
How do you become a justice of the peace? I mean, because you must get a lot of people who come to you because of that.
Well,
So-
sometimes I get 30 people a day, 25, 20. You have to have a passion for people, Miguel. I am just totally against the fact that you're a justice of the peace and you're not available to serve the people. So the moment you want to be a justice of the peace, you first have to make up in your mind, am I willing to open myself? Am I willing to give up my time to serve the people? Because justice of the peace spells work. It spells accessibility. It spells being reachable. It spells being open.
I have to ask this now because I can't claim to know. I always knew you can't open a bank account, you can't do this, you can't do that, justice of the peace, signing this. But what was the main role as a justice of the peace?
The main role is to serve the people in the community. There are things that the people need in the community. They need documents to be signed. And that's the system we have in Jamaica. So there are documents to be signed. There are matters in the court, in the lay magistrate's court. There are warrants and bails. The system we have comes out of England. And so the service of a justice of the peace is necessary to live in this country. So there's nothing we can do right now. This is just how the system is. And so people who serve as a justice of the peace must have time to serve the people.
Yeah. So when they make
Even
a money
coming to
after
the even somebody in the bank, quite honestly, I do believe that the bank should do their own investigations. Because when a citizen is sent to a justice of the peace to sign a paper to say that they know them and they can open a bank account, that should be the work of the bank. But we do the work of the bank because we sign these documents to say to the bank, we know this individual is fit and proper to open an account. So when that goes to the bank staff opens the account. So we actually do that work for the bank.
I have to tell you, the whole banking system, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother
That's a whole
conversation.
nother
But
conversation.
for now, this is how the system works,
Yeah.
where the bank would send the citizen with the paper to be signed to say, I know you and I know you for such and such a years, you live at such and such a place, and it means that what we put on that paper as a justice of the peace is the truth and nothing but the truth. So if I don't know you, Miguel, you cannot come to me to sign that paper for you to open an account. I don't know where you live. I do not know what you do. I do not know how many children you have. I do not know. How am I gonna fill out a form for you and I don't know anything about you? And so the citizens believe it is a mockery. The citizens believe that they can't know, not everybody can know a JP. What is this? And the funny thing about it is that they do not quarrel when they're at the bank, but they quarrel when they come to the JP, when the JP cannot help them. But yet they don't quarrel in the bank. But that's just the system we have.
Is there any projects you have now that you're excited about right now?
I've always been excited about the library. I'm chairman for the library also.
What is happening with that? Because do people still read books?
Yes, sir.
I do. I'm just making that
The
point.
fact of the matter is, the phone has turned our people into.
That's why I asked.
No, there's still people who use the library. There's still children who need the use of the library. The library is a safe place. The library is a quiet place. Do you know that there are people who living and don't have a quiet yard?
Yeah.
Do you know that there are people who go to the library to get a refreshing? Do you know that there are people who will leave their community and go into the library and sit at a table for quietness? That may not be a lot of people, but
Yeah,
it
but
does
it still
happen.
happens.
And there are other services that the library does. We have copying services. Uh, we do so many other things at the library. Pensioners can drop off their pension paper at the library. We have an arrangement with a government entity that they can drop off their pension. We have JP services at the library. We have reading competitions at the library. The library has been a safe place. Just recently, we had got a whole um, a bunch of computers and tablets and books for the library from the Rotary Club. There are people who are sewing to the library. We have rooms at the library that you can have small meetings. Every last Wednesday at the library, Miguel, we have a seniors and coffee a day where the seniors come in and they're treated to coffee and tea and have refreshments. And we have people, different stakeholders who come in and speak to them. So our library, the St. James Parish Library, has been doing a lot. But people just believe that because they have their phones and they have their tablets, they're on it on every day. It doesn't even remind them how to write proper English.
Remind them they can't write properly.
Thank you.
You have spell check to do it.
I mean, when you talk about penmanship, the penmanship of our people has just gotten so poor.
Yeah.
And so many times when I speak, when I'm invited to speak, I write my speeches. You know why? Because I want to maintain my penmanship.
I remember boys' school, it was called at the time. I remember going to boys' school and we had writing practice every day.
Yes.
The heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by
And that is Cornwall.
No, I did that at Cornell Avenue. I used to do that every morning.
I think they have that. Oh, you need to write. You used to write that when you're going to school.
Yeah.
But I know they use that a lot when one certain principal was at Cornwall. But I'm just saying that the use of the library is still relevant. There are people who come in and they're still doing researches. There's still people who like to turn book leaves.
Yeah, well, I like a good book.
I still read my book.
I got into because I can carry multiple books when I'm traveling on the iPad.
On the iPad.
But I mean, the last trip to Turkey, we ended up buying about six books. The day ready to come home, we realized the case is heavy. So, but I do like.
You have to buy your books when the book ship comes here. People swarm the book ships. A lot of my collection comes out of the book ship. I do a lot of reading.
We have a book ship that comes in?
No, man. It comes like every 7-8 years. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Can't recall now. But they come here. I think they're coming soon. I think they're coming back again this year. And they are at Freeport for maybe 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Do you have any current goals that you're still working towards?
Yes. I have a goal that I cannot share publicly.
It's not one that is for public consumption.
Not right now. Not right now. And sometimes you can't expose yourself too much. But separate and apart from that, I am looking forward. This is, you know, every 10 years you change, you transition to, no, I'm transitioning now to a next level in my life. And there's so much left to be done, but it's to touch people's lives. That when you speak, and people can take away something out of what you have just said, to touch lives. The moral decay in this country is much to be desired. And I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned about how we deal with one another, the lack of respect and honor. On social media, something happens and everybody has something crass to say. Everybody has something negative to say. There's so much negativity,
Yeah,
and it is causing a lot of pain
yeah.
in the hearts and lives of parents, husbands, and wives, and families. It's time for us to get back to the basics of good living. Going home to your family and cooking a meal and sitting at the dinner table with your family. You shake your head, it doesn't happen anymore.
Because I have to say, I go past KFC at 8 o'clock in the morning.
The lines are long.
And the line, no, you want that these people can buy a leg. You know, because it's no matter what time of day, the lines, Wendy's, KFC,
It is chronic. And don't get me wrong, these people need to make their money, but as families, we need to have a balance. And a lot of these foods will get you sick if you eat too much of it. But just creating a family atmosphere where your meal is cooked, your children come home, they sit at the table, mommy and daddy's at the table, children are at the table. This is where things are discussed. This is where you find things coming out of your children that you don't even know. But having a conversation with your children, having a conversation with both parents. And if both parents are not there, you have one parent there. Children are taking their meals into their bedrooms with their phones.
That was something that I was firm on growing up. So
What is that?
I look now and I hear parents say, "Oh, what are you going to do?"
You can do something
you are
about
the parent.
it. You are the parent. Yeah. When my children were going to school and we had those boys, every morning they had to come to the breakfast table. And we have devotions. And while they're eating their breakfast, somebody is leading devotion. So I would give them, you come with a scripture, come with a story. We discuss and we pray and we send them off to school. You know what that does for a child? That feeling of comfort, that feeling of assurance that mommy and daddy is in my corner. You want to hear something out of your children? Sit with them.
I know, been there.
One of my saying is spend more time with your children and less money.
But we grew up in a society where we feel like to show we love, we have to buy something expensive.
And it's not
so.
It's not so. It's not so.
Within the space of two days, them break that up and throw it away.
Things do not signify to your child that you love them. What signifies to that child that you love them is the time spent, the hugs, and the love and the listening ear.
I'm gonna because you're such a community person. You know, Jamaica, everything is politics.
Yes.
Have you thought of doing representational politics? And I know you were sort of standing for the Custos thing a few years
ago. I was not standing for the Custos thing. Don't get it wrong. I was filling in a position that just was handed to me because the current Custos was sick.
Yes.
So I never worked for that at all. It was just handed to me.
Right. So you were standing in.
Yeah, I stood in for almost 2 years acting, and but it's not something that I went for. It's not something that I had desired.
Would you, because you are so community based, right?
And I am really community based, you know.
So I feel like for the Montego Bay community, you could do with somebody that is hardcore into the community here in representational politics here. You know,
can I say something to you?
Yes.
That God would have to leave heaven and come and say, Claudette, I am appointing you. You must do this.
Not even in prime, have to come down and
He
tell
would
you.
have to come down. He would have to come down and tell me, Claudette, this is what I want you to do for the next couple of years. And I will have to hear that voice speaking to me to say, yes, this is what you must do.
Yeah, the whole political
I love
thing is.
people. I love my people. I will stay back as late as possible to do anything for my people. I love my people. I like to see people happy. I like to see people see their needs being met. So if somebody comes to me with a paper and they cannot read it, I will read it for them. Don't get me wrong. I will rough them up for a moment. Why can't you read it? Why aren't you able to articulate what is on this paper? There,
You know, it's funny, you know. I never, growing up how I grew up, I never knew that there were people out there that grown-ups that couldn't read.
Miguel,
My,
it exists now.
yes, my first job when I left school was in the employment bureau at Ministry of Labor on Strand Street.
You remember those days
And
when young people used to get that holiday job and they would go, yes, every summer.
no,
And
no,
it's like it doesn't happen anymore.
no.
I remember when I was growing up in Petersfield, I got summer job at the clinic a couple summers. And it did a lot for me because
What
I
do
was
they do
going,
now?
I don't know what they do now. I know they're in some places, some institutions that they would take young people. Like I think they do it at the airport. I do not know. But what we need to do is open our spaces and our places for young people to be exposed. But it doesn't happen as frequent, especially in the government. They
Mm.
need to do that. They need to bring it back in. But there's so much happening now, and sometimes our young people show no interest in things like these. They want to be on their phone. And I guess they're making money now via TikTok
Yeah, yeah.
and all kinds
For
of
for the
things
time being.
for the time being. But I don't know how long it will last. You think it
Well,
will last long?
well, Mr. Mandir is trying to ban TikTok, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Right?
Well, I think he withdrew. I don't know.
Well, it withdrew because going
Pressure.
to no, because for the little time that they banned it, they were trying to tell him it's been monitored by China. Actually, all the people went to a Chinese app. They went straight to China and
Really?
yes, downloaded a direct Chinese app where they were talking to actual Chinese people in China, and they thought, whoa, we can't have
Can't
that.
have that.
And some of them haven't come back to TikTok; they stayed there.
Wow.
So I think that's
Well, you
scared.
informed me
Scared.
on that one. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Um, if you could go back to a young you,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to you,
To me,
to a younger you,
to a younger me,
just fresh out of school or
be
just
more focused. Be more focused. Make sure you know what you want. Because quite honestly, it took me a while. Be focused. And that comes out of good parenting and direction. When your parent is there for you from the very beginning and is able to say, how are you going to fund? What do you want to do? This is the way the money is. This is what.
yeah,
So proper.
at 16 and 17, you don't really know a lot
No,
of
there
things.
are a lot. There are a lot of young people who know what they want from
Mm,
16, 15,
yeah.
and they work towards it. But many of us, when I left high school, I was just clueless.
Mm.
I was really clueless. Um, so if I'm to go back and to do, I would be more focused and say, this is it. I'm working towards this. But you get dependent.
Just on something you said about young people. If there's one program you could do now, it's not too late. Is there one program you could do to could offer or one service could offer to young people to sort of bring them around? What would that be? I mean, just because I'm thinking it here, I'm thinking, how do you bring around somebody know that they're not totally gone, into gangster or whatever, but they're
Mentorship,
mentorship program.
mentorship program, mentorship. If each one of us as adults And if we went on a program and all of us, you, Debbie, Junior, everybody say, all right, let's start a mentorship program, and you go and you go to a school and you look within the school and you get your information. Who are the children that need some help in this area? And if all of us take 2 or 3 children, young people, and begin to mentor them, we could see better days ahead.
That's actually quite a good idea.
Yeah, because there are students who need the help, they need direction, they need mentorship. It's good. Put on all the things you want to put on and make some money. Yes, and then give it to the school or give it for the scholarship. But who mentors that child?
Mhm.
What's going on here? What are they learning? What's going on about your values and your attitude? Quite honestly, I believe civics need to be returned to schools.
That was a big disappointment for me
Yes.
when that was stopped.
And
because-
every school need to have a program, values and attitudes. We can bring back Jamaica.
I see, that is where the politics come in, you see.
Mhm.
Because I think that has to come from the higher from government, doesn't it?
Yes, but
I mean-
I do believe that there are business people, there are local businesses and establishments that some of these people can take on these programs. Majority of the schools will allow a program that is put together properly for mentorship. We just have to work together, put something together, and you have different persons in the society who love people. First of all, you have to love people.
Yeah.
You have to love people. You have to love your fellow human beings. And let's listen, not all of us are nice people. We are not nice, but you can love the unlovable. You can sow a seed, you can plant. Not everybody that comes in my
But-
sphere of influence,
Yeah, but
not everybody is nice, but I can be nice to
Yeah,
them.
but it's about tolerance as well, because the fact that
No,
we
love
don't-
comes before the tolerance.
you know what I'm saying is the fact that we don't see eye to eye, and so don't necessarily mean we have to war over it.
Exactly.
So that's where the tolerance, I think, comes in. So I get what you're saying. Not everybody comes into your space. You're necessarily going to say eye to eye with them. Doesn't mean you're going to kick them out of the place.
No, but you're
yeah.
going to show some love.
Yeah.
You're going to show some respect. Love and respect. Even if you don't want to show that love, but respect. Respect the human being. Because people will always come into your sphere. They'll be rude, they'll be ill mannered, they'll behave in such a way that's unacceptable, but it doesn't mean that I will have to treat them back the same way. So there's a scripture that says love covers a multitude of sin. What does that mean? That when this sin comes in your way, you cover them with love. If you walk into a room and somebody, you say good morning and the person doesn't answer, does it mean that you're going to be upset? Absolutely not. But you say your good afternoon because you're well mannered and you go and take a seat.
Yeah.
And if you're bold like me, I will go back and say, I said good afternoon.
Well, I tell you, one of my it's not about me, but somebody that I met in the UK that became a very good friend of the Jamaican embassy in London. And the first time I met her, I said, good morning. And she wouldn't answer. And I said, it's still a good morning.
Yes.
And the truth is, over a period of time, we became very good friends
Out of that,
Right? So
you can win a lot of people.
You can win over people.
You can win over people, especially if you're in the public sphere.
Mhm.
I operate a business, and not every day I'm in the best of mood. But when I see people, I must adjust my attitude, and especially those who are your customers.
Yeah.
You agree with me, Miguel?
Totally. What would you want your legacy to be when you leave? What
Would I want my legacy to be? I would want my legacy to be one where people will remember me, that I did something good for them. It doesn't have to be something specific, but they can remember that Claudette Bryan did something for me when I saw her, when I met her, in person. Recently, a school named one of their houses in my honor. And the sports day was on Friday gone. So there's a Bryan house at a particular school. So sports day on Friday. So when I received that honor, because I believe that's a big honor,
That is a big honor.
that's the biggest honor I have ever received. So I was the chairman for that school board for a number of years, especially when she started out that school. And when I was demitting office last year, they surprised me with that honor that they're going to name one of their sports houses in my name. And I looked back and I said, that's an honor. Because when I am gone and that Bryan house continues, they're going to ask,
Yes.
who is Bryan? And what they did that was so special was that they put my picture on the banner. So when I walked into the schoolyard on Friday, some of the children didn't know me. And they said, you are the lady. You are the lady on our banner. I'm in your house. No, that was just a feeling of joy for me.
I suppose it opens up an avenue as well to get through to these people because you might want to know, well, why you are on the banner.
Exactly.
Yes, so that opens up
But because I gave good service as the chairman of that institution for the number of years, they wanted to recognize me in that way. So obviously it sends volumes for me because it is saying, oh, Mrs. Bryan, you really were a source of strength for us and direction and help. So we're going to give you this honor. No, that is what I talk about honor. That's what you call posterity. So when you leave this place, you leave something behind. For me, it doesn't need to be a big project. I want people to remember me as a woman of God, a woman who did right. Doing good is not always doing right. Remember that. Doing good is not always doing right, but make sure you do right. Because there are two sides, right or wrong. Which side are you going to be on?
I'm going to take that advice.
Doing good is not always right. So make sure you do right at all times. And not everybody will think in certain circumstances and situations that you are right. And you know what's happening nowadays? Somebody sees something going on and they take out the camera. And the story that they're getting is halfway. They didn't see the beginning. They do not know what happened in the beginning. They didn't hear what happened in the beginning, but they took it in the middle or at the end.
Yeah, so they got a little piece of the action and then
they make it.
They put it out there and
make it look like that was the entire thing.
It tells a story that is not the full story.
It tells a story that's not the full story. So for me, and I believe that's what we really need to aspire to do, is to bless lives. Be a blessing. Be dignified in what you do. Make sure you're known for somebody who speaks truth and do right. And it's not all the time you're going to be in the best of moods. But if you don't have the right thing to say, do like this. Because many times I'm asked my opinion and I'm saying, I don't want to give my opinion right here. No, I don't.
Anytime I talk to you, I get an education.
But isn't that a good thing?
Yes,
it's a good thing.
But see, no, you're doing your exam now, and you pass on one question, so we're going to go to just the final question.
Which one did you ask me that I passed on? Which one was it?
I said, is there one thing about Claudette Bryan that
people don't know?
People don't know.
What is it that people don't know about me? I'm very loving, you know.
That you'd want them to know.
How can I explain that? I'm very funny, you know. Even though I look so, people see me all the time and I'm always maybe so straight and serious. I love to laugh.
But I knew that.
You knew I love to laugh?
Yeah.
I love to laugh. Give me the biggest joke and I will just laugh, and I laugh at myself. I remember one day I was going somewhere and I was going across the street and I fell in the middle of the road. I had on one of those palazzo, those big pants, and one of my foot got caught up. And I fell in the middle road and a vehicle was coming and I got up quickly. and I just brushed myself off. Even my pants got torn, and I just brushed myself off and started to laugh. I like to laugh at myself. I get very funny. There's really not much that I'm very disciplined. I don't play. I don't. My children know I don't play. There's certain things I don't play with. I don't. Standards, high standards, good moral values. My son is a comedian, a big time comedian, and sometimes I hear him and I laugh because he's so funny. He doesn't mean anything. And so it makes me laugh. I love to laugh. I believe laughing is the best medicine for me. I like to be happy. I like to laugh. I don't like to be too straight.
Jamaica could do more of that now, laughter.
Yeah, man, the laughter. I want to laugh because it brings so much, it brings so much out of you. The laughter makes you really, really feeling a lot better. That's why I don't have wrinkles. Do I have any wrinkles?
No, man.
No.
You look like you're almost about 45.
But no, life is to be lived,
Mhm.
and life is to be lived well. And I don't show partiality. I don't show partiality, and I'm not a hypocrite. I cannot be hypocritical. What you see is what you get. What you get here is what you get at the store, that's what you get at church, and that's what you get out in the community. What you see is what you get. There's nothing that's false. What you see is what you get, and I remain that way. If you are out of order, I'm going to bring you back into order. I'm going to say, Miguel, or I might not say it to you at the time, but I'll call you and say, what you just did
It's not terrible.
is out of order.
Mhm.
So I say this: is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is it out of order? Is it a sin? If the answer to any one of these is yes, don't do it, you're going to suffer the consequences. Is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is it out of order? Is it a sin? If yes is to any one of these four questions, don't do it because you are going to get in trouble. So you're going to suffer the
And I like that
consequences.
as a final advice. I
No, it's no, and it's true.
like that. I
And I
like that.
tell when I do a lot of my talks, I tell my young people that also,
Mhm.
or any group at all. If the Holy
Yeah.
Spirit leads me to say that, I will, because I have another one that says, "Think, is it true? Are you gonna say something that's not true?
Shouldn't.
It shouldn't. Or do we just say it because we want to be heard?"
Yeah, and the thing is what happens with the social media thing as well. You get a lot
Mhm.
of people, somebody send them something and then they pass it down without even
Yeah,
checking.
and
But
you
this is,
see,
yeah, you just pass it on and perpetuate the same,
negativity.
yeah.
We need to find the positives in our lives, and we need to be the vehicle through which positiveness flows. There's too much negative going around, and we need to make an effort
Mhm.
to make sure that whatever we do and say, wherever we go, you leave something with people that is much to think about. Have I changed your life? Have I inspired you? Is it
Yeah.
necessary?
Or have they left you in a worse place or a better place?
Is it
Yeah,
so? My aim is to leave people in a better
in a better
place and
place.
not a worse place. That's always my aim, to leave people in a better place and not a worse place. That's what humanity is all about. What have I done? Has my contribution made it better, or has my contribution made it worse? Am I in it for my gains, or am I in it for the gain of people, of those you have around you? What do I do with my time? Much to think about.
Yeah,
Much to think about. Am I blessing other people's children? Am I being happy for other people's children rather than wanting for my child alone? When the other child gets the scholarship, do I jump for joy that that child got a scholarship? Or am I upset that my child didn't get it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not living well at all. When one rejoice, we all rejoice. May not be your best friend, but it's another human being's life that is being blessed.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to do. And we don't do things because we want to be seen, or we want to be heard, or we want to make the newspaper. Genuine people don't do that. There are many who do many things in this world, and you'll never see their picture
Yeah.
because what they do is not to be seen or heard.
And it's amazing. It's sort of like the butterfly effect. It's the little thing you do here in a year or two down the line, it affects everything else and
Yes.
comes back around without you even. But I think
Realizing what you did.
you might not even have realized the effect you
Yes.
had. Yeah.
And sow seeds. Sow seeds. Seeds is what germinate and bring forth fruit. So if the seed you're sowing is negative seed, trust me, you're going to get negative. If the seed you're sowing is positive, you're going to receive positive. If your hand is clenched like this, you neither can receive nor can you give. So your hands have to be open. So you have to open your hands to give, you have to open your hands to receive. This is why when people are shaking hands, you have to open your hand. This thing about thumb fist, it don't work. No, that's not signifying. That just came out of some prison thing or some world thing. You shake the hand and give a good handshake and look in people's eyes. The eyes are the lamp unto the soul. So you're talking to me, you look into my eyes, and you can know if there's genuineness or not. Why do you think some people talk and they look down? They're talking to you and they're looking down. Check them out. If you can't make eye contact, there's something going on. Truth is lacking because the eyes. And be genuine. Be genuine. So I strive for genuineness. I strive for love. And I strive a lot for peace. Make peace. Make peace. The person you do not make peace with today could be the very person you see tomorrow and see no more.
I said, don't burn your bridges.
Don't burn your bridges behind it.
Miss B, thank you very much for welcoming us into your home today. I know it's getting past your bedtime.
No, it's still early, but I want an early bed tonight.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on the show today. It's very motivational as always.
Yes.
And for those who hope you enjoyed the conversation, like and subscribe. See you next time.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.